welcome back to another video. This is actually my first gluten-free, dairy-free dinner recipe video of the new year. So I'm excited to be back, and man, are we starting off with a killer recipe. So what we are making today is gluten-free, dairy-free chicken taquitos, and they are so freaking good. So I tried these for the first time last week. I will link the recipe below. It's a Pinterest recipe that I found, and I tried them for the first time last week, and they were so incredibly good. I do make a couple of adjustments that I'll share with you. So we're gonna go ahead and just get started. First things first, I am doubling this recipe. I doubled it the first time I made it last week, and then they were so good that I had to make them again this week, and I had to film it for you guys. So I doubled them. So instead of doing 8 tortillas, I'm doing 16. So I buy 2 packs of the Siete cassava flour tortillas, and these normally are stored frozen. So I always get these out of the freezer while I prep everything else, just so that they're kind of thawing. So you need 2 packs of the tortillas, cassava flour tortillas from the Siete brand. Those are the ones I like. Those are the ones mentioned in the recipe. So that's what I've used. And then for chicken, like I said, I'm doubling the recipe. So the standard recipe calls for 2 cups of shredded chicken. I'm doubling it to 4 cups of shredded chicken. And you can make your life a lot easier and do a rotisserie chicken that's already cooked and then like shred that chicken. I've used canned chicken before in other recipes, not this recipe, but I've bought like the canned chicken before. So you can do some other options like that. Or if you are someone who like meal preps all on Sundays, you could cook and shred the chicken ahead of time, but I haven't done that, and I'm going to do it exactly how I did it last time because it was so good. And I'm like, I'm not gonna jinx anything. What I have been doing, last time I made it, 3 full chicken breasts was enough to fill all 16 tortillas. So that's what I'm gonna do again today, is 3 chicken breasts equaling about the 4 cups of chicken. And what I've been doing is I slice the chicken breasts in half, and then I put them in my air fryer and cook them really fast. So that's what I'm going to be doing again today, and it's what I did last time. And here's a key part that I don't actually know if it was key to how good these turned out last time, but essentially while the chicken was having to cook, I was mixing all the other ingredients that you need for the filling. So like the rest of the filling minus the chicken sat in a bowl for like probably 15 minutes while I was cooking the chicken, and I feel like all the flavors really got to like melt together, and I don't know if that was crucial to how good they were last time, but that's what I'm gonna do again. So I'm gonna cook the chicken now, and while the chicken is cooking, I'm gonna be doing the rest of the ingredients. So the rest of the ingredients is 1 full bell pepper. You need some red onion, some lime juice, cilantro, and then you need some mayonnaise, salt, chili powder, garlic powder, and then I personally added onion powder last time. My rule of thumb for cooking is that if any recipe has garlic powder in it, I add onion powder too, and vice versa. If a recipe ever calls for onion powder, I add garlic powder. I feel like they always go together, they complement each other well. And so I personally added onion powder, and I also added more seasoning than what the recipe called for, just because that's how I roll. So those are kind of the adjustments that I did, or things that I made note of, is the fact that I let all the other filling ingredients sit in a bowl for like 15 minutes and really like melt together and like marinate with each other before adding the shredded chicken in, because I was like cooking the chicken in the background. And then I did add extra chili powder, garlic powder, salt, onion powder than what the recipe calls for, but then everything else was identical to what the recipe called for. So without further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get started with the chicken. Just like I did last time, I'm gonna go ahead and get it started in the air fryer because I have to do a couple batches of it in the air fryer. And then once that's ready to go, then I'm going to put all the other ingredients in a bowl, let it sit, and wait until all the chicken is shredded. And again, you wanna make sure that you get out your tortillas out of the freezer if you have them in the freezer, and just let them be kind of thawing while you are doing everything else. So by the time that it is time to fill the tortillas, they are good to go. So let's get cooking. Okay, I'm just gonna show you what I did to cook my chicken. You can bake chicken, you can cook it on the stove, you can buy the rotisserie chicken, like however you want to get your shredded chicken, have at it. But essentially what I do is you like take the chicken breast and you cut it in half, and then we just lay it flat in the air fryer. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but this is essentially what it is. And I found this technique on Pinterest, I think for another recipe I was making. This is how it like suggested to cook the chicken. So I've kind of done this for a lot of different recipes now. So this is why like it takes me a minute to do the chicken, because 4 pieces lay flat and like fit in the air fryer. And then I have to do like a whole separate batch with the last one. But it's okay because it allows all the other ingredients, like I mentioned, to kind of like sit there with each other and like marinate. So that's all I do to like cut them. And then I don't season the chicken at all with anything. I just put them in the air fryer at 400 degrees. And I'm gonna cook it for about 5 minutes, flip them all, and then you cook them again on the other side for 5 minutes. Okay, so last time when I was making this, I did not measure how much extra seasoning I added, because that's normally how I cook. I just kind of wing it, kind of eyeball it. But for the most part, I do remember that it's kind of like, it was like a little bit redder than this because of the chili powder. So this, what I've got right now, is perfectly the recipe. It is 6 tablespoons of lime juice, it's 4 tablespoons of the cilantro, 2 teaspoons of chili powder, and then a teaspoon of garlic powder, salt, and then I added a teaspoon of onion powder. And then the recipe calls for 2/3 of red onion and then a full bell pepper. So this is exactly what the recipe called for, except I added a teaspoon of onion powder as well. So I'm going to measure maybe like 2 more teaspoons of chili powder, because I do know that it was a little bit redder than this when I made it last time. I feel like I always end up adding more salt and seasoning than what a recipe typically calls for. So that's 4 teaspoons of chili powder. And then I also might add another teaspoon of salt. I'm gonna do another teaspoon of garlic and onion as well. So I'm kind of playing around with it. Obviously, you can always just start off with whatever the recipe says. I feel like I am not normally that person. I normally add a little bit more. I also might add a little bit more lime juice, but I did want to actually measure it. So now we've got 4 teaspoons of chili powder, 2 onion, 2 garlic, and 2 salt. And that's all in teaspoons. Everything so far has been teaspoons. So I'm just kind of tasting this. Okay, yeah, that's definitely a little bit better with adding a few more teaspoons of everything. My last one I made was just so potent. It's so good. I'm gonna stop it there. So everything else was the same measurements, except I did 4 teaspoons of chili powder, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, 2 teaspoons of onion powder, and 2 teaspoons of salt. Everything else was normal. So I only adjusted the seasonings, and then everything else is the same. So I'm going to shred my chicken, and then we're gonna add this in and then turn them into taquitos and get this going. Okay, so we have our mixture right here. And so I put my pan on the stove to get it heated up. And so the next step is going to be preparing the tortillas and then filling them with the mixture and then cooking them, obviously. So with these, in order to help them not crack when you go to roll them up. The instructions do say to put 2 tortillas in between like wet paper cloths and microwave them for, I'll have to check, like 30 seconds. I don't think it was much. Yeah, so like 15 to 20 seconds. So I kind of did this whole process by my pan, and I would like heat up 2 tortillas, fill them, put them in my pan, heat up 2, fill them, put them on my pan. So I feel like whatever rhythm works best for you, but that is what I'm going to be doing next. So the tortillas are pretty soft and thawed already, and I do cook them on like medium heat for about like 6 minutes each. So you 6 minutes and then flip them. But last time I let them go until they were like charred, like a charred grill vibe, and they were so good. So that's what I'm hoping to do this time. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of do this whole process. I will probably speed it up because it is kind of a long process of just like heating a couple tortillas, filling them, putting them in the pan, heating them, the whole thing. But it's very simple. It just is like a little bit of a process, but they are so good that it's worth every minute spent on this recipe. All right, I've officially finished all of them, and they are seriously so good. And this is what I was talking about, like kind of charring like the ends and just trying to make them pretty crispy. I feel like you could play around with this recipe however you wanted to as far as like your process of assembling them. And I feel like you could probably also heat like 3 or 4 tortillas at a time, but this is only the second time I made them, so I just stuck to the recipe and heated up 2 tortillas at a time. And then I also kind of re-dampen the paper towels between tortillas that I'm heating up, so I'll kind of sprinkle a little bit more water on top of the paper towel and then stick them in the microwave again. But that is it for this recipe, and that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this and follow along. I post a lot of gluten-free, dairy-free recipes all the time, so be sure to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.